So the response to all the media tour videos we did was absolutely amazing. And I just want to first say thank you so much for putting your confidence in me and for wanting this type of content out of the media tour and out of Final Fantasy XIV in general. I am definitely driven to do more of these. And that said, we did miss a few things from the media tour. And I think I'll put some, of my own wishes at the end. So, you ready to talk about what we missed? All right. Let's head in. Since the presentation in the live letter was essentially the same as the presentation we were given at the media tour, I kind of came in and out, especially because I was trying to monitor the reactions from my community. So there are definitely some things I missed, and we're going to go over 4 of those things today. I tried to scour through all of my footage again to make sure, at least out of the things that I caught, and again with the help of my friend Sophie's footage as well, I wanted to make sure we covered some of the things that I wanted to talk about that I had overlooked that were brought up in the comments on Reddit and in the videos here on YouTube. So if you pointed out something, thank you very much. I appreciate it so much. So the first thing we missed was on the party list. And when I saw this, I felt very derpy because it was footage on my video that was right there in front of me that I had looked at for a day and a half as that was the first video I did. And I was staring at that. And that piece is this piece right here, that little triangle. Somebody on Reddit asked what that triangle was. And I'm like, what triangle? And I looked at my footage, I looked at my own video and saw that there was a triangle going on and off. And apparently people had clarified that was on the live letter. And I completely missed that because, of the aforementioned reasons of wanting to hear my Discord's reactions on the thing. So if you didn't see this either, here's what it is. It is simply an indicator to indicate that you've taken damage. It's an icon that can be really misleading at a glance or in an image. If you didn't know that it was in the live letter and I gave you that screenshot, I'm like, tell me what that arrow does. You probably could take it. You probably would get a good guess as to what it would do. Some kind of debuff maybe. The thing I have a tiny problem with this, and I think it's the placement. The fact that it seems so randomly placed, and maybe it's not a dynamic element. It's obviously in the same place, as you can see with this AoE footage. When we take an AoE in the dungeon, we all get the down arrow here. I think it's to cover the fact that, we're going to have, at the end of Shadowbringers, we're going to have like 6-digit HPs, and that it should feel a little bit more balanced when that happens. I'm wondering if it was an engineering decision to put it there. It feels like for a little widget like this that they might have had like 3, 4, 5 or more designs of what they could do there, and this was one of the simplest things. There are a lot of things with the UI that felt kind of right, and we talked about these in the UI overview and the focus on the party list with the barrier indicator. And that just kind of felt right given what they had to do. It seemed like very straightforward within the constraints of what they could do with the party list. And we've learned a lot through media tours that, they're still working on getting rid of engineering debt. And just because, they're adding something to the UI doesn't mean it's easy for them to do so. But this icon seems a little bit out of place. And I feel like I'm railing too hard on it, and I'm not really trying to. It's just the fact that it doesn't feel right, but at the same time, I couldn't put it in another place to describe the same effect. The usefulness of it is obviously there, and I'm glad it's there now that I know what it is. But if I wasn't told otherwise, or if it wasn't explained to me otherwise, and there didn't seem to be any help text with it, which I hope is solved with the release of Shadowbringers, it's kind of ambiguous what it means. And all this talk over a little icon, I know, right? Only here, but that was one of the things we missed. On to the next thing, though. I was taking a look at Sophie's dungeon footage, and because we ran the same dungeon, so she was again very generous to lend her footage so I can get another view of somebody's UI. And there was actually something I missed there. So we talked about in the user experience rundown video, we gave you the animated version of what the casting interruption system looks like, and I thought that was it. So as tank, since I was the one always doing silencing in the dungeon, I didn't see any other UI elements pop up, except the one that I had showed you, the pulsing bar, the call to action, if you will, to show if an action was cancelable and if you successfully canceled that action. What I didn't see, and what would take another viewpoint to catch, is if you do successfully interrupt the action, it will actually show as interrupted. You know, the fact that they actually show confirmation of this interruption really leaves a lot to think about when it comes to encounter design. They definitely seem like they're going to be implementing this. Granted, it could have been something that they're like, hey, we're just gonna make silence useful. But this is more like, hey, we're gonna make silence useful and you better watch out and you better, keep notice, because, we're making this loud and clear that this is a thing, and that if something's been canceled, that it's been canceled and it's happening, and you can keep note of it. The next thing on our list is what I call the GCD Recharge Circle, and this isn't something I easily caught when I was using my classes. Granted, I think Dark Knight has one of these, but I was watching some Machinist gameplay, and Machinist has a couple of these actions that are on the global cooldown, but have longer cooldowns themselves. So the way cooldowns work in general is that you have that clock action that happens every time you press your GCD button, you press your normal combo, the global cooldown counts down, and you have that on all actions. Any cooldown is signified by this clock action. The user experience problem that was introduced with introducing actions that are on the global cooldown but have a cooldown on their own, you can't have this clock over a clock. So what they chose to do was they chose to introduce this inner circle that would then show you how long it takes until you can use the skill again. And when you can use it again, you can use it only on the global cooldown. I am honestly not the most observant of people when it comes to these kind of things. I would really like some kind of active help around that, because some of the skills that are being introduced, like people are going to be introduced to this, it's like, what is this inner circle? And it kind of took me some staring at this footage in order to get that. If you're able to get it, awesome. I'm just trying to keep an eye out there for people that might not be as quick to jump on that train of thought as you all who kind of got it right off the bat. The final one actually is one that I saw via the benchmark, and if you haven't seen this one, it's actually pretty cool. There are obviously a growing number of hairstyles, and if you were able to check out the benchmark, if you're a PC user, you're probably seeing this weird text that says "show all bangs," and I think the wording of it was really odd. So while I was watching my wife Jen create a Vieira, I saw that checkbox and I asked her to check it, and then it was grayed out, so she couldn't check it. So we found the other element that allowed you to then click on different hairstyles. Then you could check that box, and it hid all the other ones. So it's pretty much a bookmarking system for hairstyles, which is really cool, considering how many hairstyles we do have. I hope that's like a little Easter egg or a little taste into what they'll be bringing into the character creator to come. I'm doubting that that's going to really be a thing. I guess we'll see. But I really hope they change the text. Show all bangs. I literally thought that was like they modified the hairstyle so you could show your bangs or not. Well, it seems like the things we overlooked, even though it was only 4, we managed to talk a little bit on them. But I do want to get in some wishes. These are things that I really wish we could see in the final build of the game, even though, the signs point to no when it comes to what we saw in the April 30th media tour build. You never know what could happen from May, June into the June 28th, launch, patch 5.0 launching on June 28th. Yoshi P did reiterate over and over and over again while checking his watch that they would work up until the last minute on all of this stuff, so you never know what they could slip in at the end. But some of the wishes I have for the team, and I haven't really gone into things that I want to see out of Shadowbringers, but better duty recorder would be one. I think that the duty recorder as is should have been classified as a beta. The fact that you could only have one duty, the fact that you couldn't really save it, you can really save replays for later. If you happen to miss it, or you happen to miss the patch, like I can't go back to Byakko and be like, I want to record us doing, speed kills or, our first kill or whatever. Like I really like the duty recorder as a feature. And I just hope that it's expanded to more duties than the one current one. There's a bigger use case for this feature than what they seem to be marketing it for via the patch notes. And I really hope that's made better. UI scaling was another comment that was brought up in one of the videos. And again, thanks to that commenter for bringing it up. We're in a land of high DPI. We're in a land of, like, if you develop an app for an iPhone or for Android or for any device, 4K, that you provide high-res art for the devices that can support it. And the fact that they added 160, 180, and 200% scaling for 4K monitors, that being the use case in the Stormblood series was a great, it was a thumbs up. It was a great job on that, providing more options that way. But for somebody like me, and I guess there are a lot of people out there that agree with me, we care so much about the visual quality, the visual crispness, sharpness of this UI, because it's so well designed already that we can easily see something when it's off. I don't like how the text doesn't scale responsively. It scales more like a bitmap image, and the same thing with the icons themselves. And this is something that I hoped to see with the new Shadowbringers icons coming out, but in the quick tests I didn't see that happen. So, I can only hope that that wasn't in the build. I'm kind of doubting it, but again, we'll see. But that's definitely a wish of mine. I want chat to be integrated with the other HUD elements. I think this is one that's been, a long time coming. I think that it needs to be integrated with the HUD in some way. I think it needs to react like other HUD elements in one way or another. It's a bit of a wild card because of the way you can easily expand and contract it, but there are these points where I'll like accidentally grab the general tab while clicking on it, and I'll move it all of a sudden. I kind of want it to be locked there. Even an option to lock the chat where it is so I can't accidentally move it would be an awesome step forward. But I believe other than the font size additions that they've done in the Stormblood series, that we haven't gotten that many chat upgrades. So I really wanted to see something at the media tour, but I didn't. So again, wishing for some patch in the future, or 6.0, because it seems like overhauling the chat system would be a pretty big change. I definitely want an option to hide pop-up messages while you're in a cutscene. I've had a lot of great moments in 14, semi ruined by the fact that people would leave the party. Completing any of the Evil East raids for the first time, because I was personally so invested in that story, and then all of a sudden seeing character name has left the party while you're trying to focus on this thing. It's like somebody's screen coming on during the movie, and it's just the brightest white, and you're like, I just completely missed what happened because that phone was just so loud. So that'd be nice. Either just by default, because I don't need to know if people are leaving the party during a cutscene. I can check that stuff after. Would be a great quality of life adjustment, I think, if you could do that. And the final thing, and this is definitely personal for me as a person who loves onboarding and who thinks that onboarding somebody onto a product properly is extremely important, I really wish they would provide multiple default HUD designs. We have 4 slots for HUDs, but when you start the game, they're all the same. They're like, hey, we give you 4 save slots. I see that as a missed opportunity to actually provide different ways to route the user experience. Like, there's so many ways to customize your UI, and the fact that they only give you the one is, again, yes, it's a missed opportunity. It's something that we can, you could provide different styles of HUDs with your map in a different place, your health bar and your MP bar in a different place, doing 2x6 layouts instead of, 3 1x12 bars, and then walking people through that when they go into the HUD layout for the first time. It's like, hey, we've supplied a couple of different HUD layouts for you. Pick the one that's best for you. Pick the one that makes the most sense. And I would personally love one that kind of talks to what I talked about in my first video on the UX of Final Fantasy XIV, where we talked about kind of mnemonic devices and mapping out your hotkeys and your hotbar layout so that they correspond to your hands, so that the hotbars on the left correspond to your keyboard hand and the hotbars on the right correspond to your mouse hand, whether you have a Naga mouse or not. That's definitely something I wish I could just go to, Minagawa-san and be like, please, like, provide some defaults for the newer players and just route them to that, because you'd make them such power users. Like, as designers, we want people to become power users. We want them to become masters of our product. If you hide stuff and, make stuff secrets, and I guess, the macro system and text commands is the biggest offender with this. It's a very engineering based sort of thing. It's like, hey, it's like the secret menu in and out, it's cool that I can order a 3x3 or, well done fries, which are awesome, by the way, but that's not something that you should have in your game. Like, you should be revealing these features to people and kind of enticing them. Right now you're having content creators and avid players sort of entice other players, but every time I see somebody like go, wow, like, this macro is something I never seen before, or how did you do that with your UI? I feel like it's a missed learning opportunity. And I hope that's something that if I ever get the chance to talk to the UI team or to be able to interview the UI team, that I could probably communicate to them. Just to know that they're thinking about it and that it's something that is on their mind would be great to learn. So that's it for my wishes and things that I've overlooked. If I happen to run into any more, or if we find out any during the live letter on the 14th, I will be sure to be back with more things to talk about. Hopefully we'll learn some things about like the new Game Plus system and some of the other systems that we weren't able to see during the media tour. Thank you so much for the support that you've given me during the media tour and all of the videos we put out. I can't wait to do more of these, and I hope you can't wait for more videos coming out on the user experience of Final Fantasy XIV. I hope to see you in the next video, but until then.